Well, welcome back. Flatlander Mike here again. I've got to repair this peg box on this violin. I'm not going to refinish it if I can help it. But you can see this has a crack right there, right through the peg box. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have this really thin piece of maple that I cut on the table saw. I had a big block. I have another one that's actually too thick. So you want to be pretty close to about half of the thickness of the side of the peg box. So I'm pretty close to half there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to I marked this out. I put it on here. Now the grain runs this way on this peg box, on this neck. Okay, so the grain runs all the way down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece. I'm going to cut this out. Probably just right here, because this one's not broken. So I'll probably just cut it off here and here. I'm just going to shave it out with the chisel, the thickness of this, and then I'm going to glue it all together. So what I did was I laid this on top, and I want it about there. It's a little oversized. And then I took a pencil and marked it on both sides. So what I'm going to do is cut that out, cut it off, and then we're going to cut that to the right size. And then make sure it's the right size all the way around. And then I'm going to take the saw. I have a little tiny saw here. And then once I get this cut, I'm going to mark it and then cut. Mark it here and then cut it down approximately halfway through. And then I'm going to take the chisel and I'm going to go and clean that out so that this piece sits down inside, and then I'll have to try and stain it the same color and finish it clear. No, I just seen there's a little piece of something under there, so I don't know if somebody's done something. Doesn't look like it. I don't know. Anyway, but we'll do that first. And then we'll probably have to recut the taper to the same size and maybe just clean the holes up a little bit. So I'm going to prep it here, cut it out, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've got my little piece cut here, and I marked it top and put an arrow on it, and it's going to fit. Move this up here. It's going to fit right in there. I've made the two little cuts here with the saw. So now I'm going to just chisel this out with the little chisel. So we'll try and do that very carefully. Okay, we're going to just take that out. One thing I did not mention is the grain in the piece of wood. This grain is going across, so when I put it on, it's actually going across the crack. The grain is going across grain of the other one. So you want to do that so that it gives it strength. Otherwise, if the grain is the same, it'll just crack right there where it's put on. So it'll crack right through. So we're going to just chisel this out. So we want to get the bottom as flat as possible. So we put the piece in, it's flat. And just keep trying it. So it's a little high yet. Might have to shave this down just a hair, which isn't a problem, we'll just sand it. If you run into a neck, it's really bad, you might want to just buy a new neck for it. Of course, then it's not original, but this one here I'm going to try to save, because it's an older violin. It's probably at least 100 years old. It is a copy, but still, it doesn't mean it's not a quality copy. It's just not worth a lot of money, so. But to me, sure, it'd be nice to find a Strad, but you know, you could kind of get rich off of that. But then again, just making these old violins play again is very satisfying. Okay, so I'm really close there. I'm gonna just trim the side off a little bit more, very carefully, because we don't want to rip the holes. Okay, so we finished trimming down the cleats. As you can see, it's quite flat and tapered, and the other side, so it's fairly flat. Okay, so the top is all ready to be put back on. Okay, so the next thing is the neck. Just put that off to the side. Now, if you remember, we had a crack right about here in the peg box, and I did find, when I was taking this down with the chisel, I found a little steel pin or nail in there. So they had tried to drive a nail in here and stop the crack. So I just left that in, and I glued this piece on over the top. So what we got to do is try and chisel this down now, and we're gonna smooth it out. I have to make sure it's completely flush here. It's a little bit off, but it's pretty close to it. So now I'm just gonna take a little bit off, very carefully. And be very careful. Trying to chisel it so it looks. I'm just a little short on this one point here, but I mean, hey, it gives a character. A little bit more. Okay, pretty good there. I think we'll take the rest down with a file. Same as here. I think we'll see to a little sliver here if I can. Very, very fine. You gotta watch these chisels, they're very sharp. You can see I already touched it with the end of the chisel and cut myself. So, okay, so I've got a pretty smooth file here. And be really careful not to touch the finish. Try not to. But we are going to have to stain this piece here, so just a little bit more. Okay, just a wee bit more on the top here. Take your time and file it just a little bit at a time. Lots of times you don't even know it's been fixed. You can match the stain and it'll be right on. Okay, so I'm gonna just take a little bit out here. Good. Okay. I have to get a smaller file to fit into that groove there. File this down. So, gotta just leave this now. So we're just going to give it a little taper here. That's not too bad. Okay. And we want to make sure that we're flush here. It does get tapers smaller and it also tapers narrower, so that's not too bad there, and you can't feel the difference there. Okay, so next thing is we're going to cut that hole in there. We've got to put a new peg hole in there. So the pegs are fairly small and they fit fairly tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole and ream the peg out first, and then we'll stain it. So I'll be right back as soon as I get set up. Okay, back again. Okay, we're going to drill this peg hole out. I've got a 3/16 bit, and we're going to drill a hole first, a pilot hole, and get it as close to the center as possible. And we've got this, it's called a peg hole reamer, and it's from Stuart McDonald in the States. And if you can see, it's got a flat area with no teeth, and then the other teeth are on here, so that stops it from making your holes oblong. Okay, so we're going to go from this side, and we're going to carefully drill a hole. I should put it on a block of wood. Got a block of wood here, a piece of 2x4, and we're going to just put that onto there. Now, this is real tricky. Okay, so we're pretty close there. Okay, so hopefully that this is going to fit through here. Okay, so the taper goes this way. So a small end on this side, big end on this side. So your peg will fit in like that. Okay, so it's tapered, so the big end is down here. So the tapered fit means when you push in, it gets tight. Okay, so we're gonna just stick this in a hole, and we're gonna just hopefully just, there we go. And we're gonna just keep going. Not quite through. Okay, so I'm going to keep going until this is just touches here. Right now, see, it's still not quite touching, so I'm just going to go a bit more. And what happens is, over time, the peg holes actually get oblong, worn. So this would be 1, 2, 3. I did mark these pegs. I put marks on them. Pencil marks on there. That's 4. This should be 3. Okay, so number 3 should fit in there. Just hunky dory. Okay, so we looked in here, as you can see. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's pretty much all the way around. I took some out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just touch up the other holes a little. Okay, and this one goes this way. Just a little. We're going to just give it a little touch up. Okay. This one here, we'll just give this one just a wee bit more because it's not quite hitting on the So that trues up the holes, trues up the tapers. Just make sure that I've touched it. This one here is not quite touched all the way around. We can also straighten the pegs too. I have a tool that tapers the pegs. So before we put them together, we'll retaper the pegs. If we're going to use the original pegs, we may have to change it. But so I did mark the pegs to go in the same holes because sometimes some holes are bigger. And so there we go. We're all set. Now we can give this a little bit of stain. A little bit of fuzz off of there. Okay, I'm very happy with that. That's pretty good. So, okay, so I'll get set up for the next phase and be back. Okay, so we're all set up. We got to get some stain here. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got 3 different stains. One is cherry. These are all Minwax. Sedona red. And also have red oak, I believe it is. No, red mahogany. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I've mixed these up. So I'm going to kind of try and pick the closest one. I'm going to just put a little spot on here beside it. And we're going to see how close that is. Not bad. So we might have to, let's try this one here. This one's a little redder though. No, that's really red. So we might have to do one coat over the next. So I'm going to put a little bit of this on. I think the red oak is way too red, so for the mahogany. So I'm going to put a little bit of this on. And boy, it's not staining very much. So I'm just going to rub it on. Not much stain in there. Okay, so let's give it a little bit of the other one. So that's really red. You can see the difference there. Okay, we'll just wipe that off. Okay, so that might be a good base. I don't know. Okay, we'll try just a little bit of this. I think this one's way too dark. Okay, we'll try a little bit. So it doesn't take, the maple doesn't take the stain as readily as some of the other ones. It actually didn't darken very much. It's really hard to stain maple sometimes. We'll try that one again. See if we can give it a little brown. It's getting darker, but this is probably one of the hardest things to do, is to try and match stain. So we're going to give it a little more of this dark stuff. Get it so it looks. And right on the back edge here, see it's kind of worn off, so you can maybe take a little abrasive and just take that off, take the stain off the top of it a little bit. We're going to let that sit for a minute. The stain sometimes takes a bit to sink in. So let it set. You kind of want to get it as close as you can because, well, it's going to be obvious, but it does give it a little bit of character. It's like, oh, somebody did a repair job on there. Looks really nice though. Dab it off. So we'll see, we're getting closer there now. So starting to blend in a bit. And that's the dark stain. It's really not what I expected. So I'm going to put these other stains away. Okay. I'm going to give that just a little more. And darken it up a little bit more. I'm just going to dab it on with the screwdriver here. I mean, if you wanted to, you could take some filler and fill it in, but I'm opting not to do that. I'm going to just leave it. So on the edges here, where my saw cuts were, you could do that. But I'm just going to try and get it stained as close as I can. You have to remember, this is not an antique worth thousands of dollars. This is the main thing that we're looking for, is to make it play again, and hopefully it's going to sound okay, because you spend a lot of time on it. You never know what it's going to sound like until you've got it back together. So we're going to just let that sit for a few minutes, and I'll be back.